Hello everybody, good evening and welcome to another episode of Sunday Night Live with me, Jonny Lipsham, here at jonnylipshamstudios.co.uk in the southeast part of Scotland. And of course, Scotland is the capital of literally everything, including every dimension. See, I thought I'd bring the joke back, you know. So anyway, yes, Scotland is the centre of the entire universe. So, it isn't really, but you know what I mean. So, welcome everybody. I have been doing a little bit of checking up to see how many shows we have done of Sunday Night Live. We are 3 shows away after tonight. We are 3 shows away from 400 Sunday Night Live episodes. So I am very excited by that. I hope you guys are very excited by that too. It's quite the milestone that I've kept this going almost uninterrupted since 2017. So roughly like 8 years. I'm very, very pleased that this show has kept going, and we tend to have somewhere between 20 and 30 or so people that watch this show every Sunday, and thank you very much everybody for watching. I appreciate you guys immensely. You guys are the best people on the entire internet, and I love you very much. So thank you for all that you do to make this channel possible, to make this show possible. Your questions are what drives this show and make it happen. So thank you very much for all of your questions over the years, for making this show what it is, and also for making me think. For making me think about things, and think about Studio One, and think about music production in ways that I hadn't really thought of, because some of you are using Studio One in ways that I never really thought, not that they weren't possible, but, you know, really just using Studio One in ways that I hadn't really thought of using it. And, you know, you're involved in music that I'm not involved in at all. And so you get me thinking a lot more about the possibilities that we have in Studio One. I'm an audio guy predominantly. I use MIDI a little bit, but for the most part, I mostly do audio because I work in acoustic music for the most part. So jazz, folk music, chamber, orchestral music, I do as well, but for the most part, that's what I do. So I'm not using a lot of synthesizers particularly. I do use some virtual instruments, but not many, hardly any, and those are usually to supplement the acoustic recordings that I have. So whereas there are some of you out there that are using lots of orchestral libraries, in the case of my friend Rich Cresswell, who uses a lot of orchestral and other sample-based sounds in his productions. I don't really do a lot of that. I do some of it, but mostly I don't, unless I'm working with film students at Edinburgh's Napier University, where I do use some orchestral sounds and some synthesizer sounds, but for the most part, I don't do that kind of stuff. So some of you are using compression in ways that I don't, and so don't really have a whole lot of experience in those things. So you guys have made me think about a lot of different production techniques from a lot of different standpoints. And so for that, I thank you very, very much, because you guys keep me learning, and hopefully at the same time, I'm keeping you guys learning as well. I certainly don't pretend that I am the kind of expert in Studio One or recording, mixing, and mastering in any way, shape, or form. When it comes to Studio One, I do know a lot about it. because I basically, when I switched over from Cubase, I basically decided I want to learn what this thing can do to, as deep a possible level as I could. And in so doing, I came to the attention of the company that makes Studio One, which is PreSonus. And so I now work for them. So I know the program even more than I did before. So I know the ins and outs of Studio One much more than I ever thought I ever would. So I would kind of say maybe I am a little bit of an expert, but even then, there are parts of Studio One that I don't use. There are parts of Studio One that I don't know very much about, particularly. And so you guys regularly send me off to research and look into different aspects of Studio One that I haven't. So I watch tutorial videos, believe it or not. So if I see something about a particular functionality in Studio One that you guys ask about, and I don't know what it is, and you bring it up on a Sunday Night Live like this one, then what I do is after the show, I will go and watch tutorial videos to find out about that part of Studio One, so that, if somebody asks those questions again, I've got a little bit more knowledge than I had before, and I can kind of explain things a little better than just going, I don't know. Now, one thing you will know about me is I'm not afraid at all of saying, I don't know. If I don't know something, I'm not going to lie, and I'm not going to try and fudge things and make things up. Because that's not very honest for a start. And B, it's not a good show integrity-wise. And finally, I think it's just much better to say, I don't know. And then I can go and I can, look on YouTube and find some tutorial videos that will show that thing, so that I can then learn about it. And then the next time that question comes up, I've got something to talk about. And I've got at least some semblance of an answer that I can give. Or I can say, hey, actually, go watch this video by this content creator because they do a great job explaining it better than I could. So, sometimes that's the way. Sometimes the way is to point to other experts, to point to other people that know more about a particular aspect of a subject than I do. So I'm saying all of that as a preamble, basically to say thank you very much, everybody, for making my channel what it is today. We are very, very close to 6,000 subscribers, and we're very close to 400 shows for Sunday Night Live. So, and Sunday Night Live is pretty much the pinnacle of what this channel is about, really. I have a whole bunch of other tutorial content on the channel as well. So if you're new here, like JCM Sound is, a very, very, very warm welcome to you. I'm glad you're here. I do have a bunch of tutorial videos on here. Some of them are a little bit elderly now, but they're still pretty relevant. And so also, if you are a beginner and you don't really know a whole lot about mixing or mastering or anything like that, I do have a beginner's tutorial series called Studio One from Scratch, which I made quite a while ago, but it's still pretty good. Some aspects of it have changed, like how you install and activate Studio One have changed a little bit. But essentially everything else is pretty much the same as it was. I should maybe consider updating that series at some point. But yeah, you can go and check that out. And then, of course, there's a mixing series where I take one of my own songs and I mix it from scratch as if it had never been mixed before. And then I compare it to the mix that I'd done several years previously at the end of that series. So if you are a beginner and you're wanting to learn more about the process of using Studio One, about mixing and mastering and seeing how easy the workflow is in Studio One, if you're brand new to Studio One, those video series I would recommend are a good place to start. If you also want to find out more about features that have been added to Studio One over the last 10 years, then I have several series of videos covering new versions of Studio One, from version 3.5 all the way to 7.2, which is where we are now. So there's a lot of videos that will show you certain features of Studio One. So if you are kind of a little not sure about certain features, go and check out one of those video series and you'll find that those features are shown there for you. All right, so let's get into the meat and veg of the show, which is your questions. So if you do have a question about Studio One or recording, mixing, and mastering in general, broadly speaking, then please do get your questions in the chat. It would help me quite a lot if you start your question by typing at Jonny Lipsham Studios. What that does is that highlights my name in red for me. I see it highlighted in red. You guys don't, but it is for me. And that helps me to pick out your questions from amongst the chat. And also make sure that I don't miss questions. But I do have a fantastic moderator team. The people whose names are in purple or blue, depending on your color vision preferences, but they all have a little wrench icon. Those are my moderators, and they will help me if I miss a question because they are freaking awesome. So first in the door was my very good friend Cresswell Rackner, who says, good merry evening, glad to see so many wonderful friends here tonight, and we're very glad that you are here tonight too, Chris. Welcome. Billy Morgan is next in the door, barely like 2 minutes later. Wow. Tony Stringer is also here. We got Dwayne here as well. We've got Daryl Harrison, and we've got our new friend JCM Sound here. He says, hello people, new here, but excited to see what's up. Well, you know what? We are just as excited to have you among us. I hope you stick around and, you know, come back again next Sunday and maybe on successive Sundays. I also do a show on Wednesdays called Songwriting Simplified, where we basically talk about all aspects of songwriting, composing, arranging, and we delve into some music theory as well. So if you want to learn about that, JCM Sound, you are very, very welcome to join us on Wednesday at the same time at 6 p.m. Central. So if you want to be here and learn a bit more about those kind of things, I cover those on Wednesdays as well. And it's the same kind of format, your questions for about an hour. And so that's what I do on Wednesdays. I started that Songwriting Simplified thing with Jonny Gibe almost 10 years ago. It's probably 8 years ago that I started that with him. And then he had a job that meant that he couldn't do our Wednesday nights anymore. So I took over the show here. And so next week will be show 117, I believe. So that will be on Wednesday. But bear in mind, my 50th birthday is coming up very, very soon, folks. So it will be not this Wednesday, but next Wednesday, Wednesday the 8th, that we will be having my 50th birthday party special live here on the channel. So if you want to join in celebrating with me then, everybody is very, very welcome. I will take questions on anything music related. So I will open that up to not just Studio One, but we'll open that up to pretty much everything music orientated. And we can talk about my life. We can talk about my history. We can talk about my music career as well. Whatever you guys want to talk about. I don't want to talk about me for the entire time. So we can talk about anything you want. Bring a bottle of wine, bring a bottle of champagne, bring a bottle of beer, whatever you want to bring. And I will be definitely drinking something alcoholic on that show. That is for sure. And then it'll be my actual birthday on on October 9th, which is the next day. So for me, actually, when I start my show at midnight on October 9th, for me in the UK, my actual time of birth is nearly 9 o'clock in the morning. So we'll be very, very close to my birthday in reality at that point. So continuing on here, we got Christina here from Denmark as well. We got Rich, the aforementioned Rich Cresswell, who is helping JCM Sound with his I can't speak. His question. Which is great. And we have Don Oliver here. We got Dave from New York, aka Bops NY. And we got Kyle Trajuziak here too. And we got Just Bob as well. And we got Ron the Key Man here as well. And I'm going down to the bottom to see if I can find anybody else that I have not mentioned. I think I've got everybody. I'm pretty sure. JCM Sound says he's used it since Studio One 5 Pro. Well, there you go. So you've been around for about 5 years, roughly, which is great. Welcome. I'm glad you're here. Right. So I'm going to go now. My good friend, Mr. JCM Sound, Rich Cresswell is taking care of your question. So I'm not actually going to answer it. Mostly because you are asking a question to which I don't know the answer, because it's not my area of expertise, whereas Rich has got some very, very good ideas there for you. So I would say take a listen to what he's having to say, and he will most definitely help you. Rich is one of the most helpful people in this little community. He and I are currently working together with a songwriting challenge at the moment called the Halloween Songwriting Challenge. And there is a workspace that we have open and available for anybody that wants to participate in the Halloween Songwriting Challenge. Rich Cresswell has all the details for that. And he has very, very kindly sponsored this particular challenge, which is great. And I'm just basically the host of it, but Rich is the sponsor and has provided an awful lot of the materials for the challenge. It's very exciting this year. We've opened it up a wee bit. We've made it a lot more flexible. So you can largely do what you want. The fundamental brief of the challenge this year is to scare the shit out of me and Rich, because he and I will be judging it. So you need to scare the shit out of us. And also, if you make use of the particular scales that we have highlighted for use in the workspace, which includes such exotic scales as the whole tone scale, the diminished whole tone scale, Superlocrian dominant scale. If you use those scales either to base your work on or in part, like maybe you have a section that uses one of those scales, that counts, and you get bonus points for that. And so the winner will be announced on the 29th of October. The closing date is the 26th of October, and the winner will be announced on the 29th. And there will be a prize for the winner. So it's very exciting. I love doing these with Rich. Rich is fantastic. He's a great guy. He's a good friend. And he has really helped this little community, which is my YouTube channel, grow significantly. So I owe him a massive, massive thank you. All right, so with that all out of the way, Dave has a question. He says, can I customize the browser in Studio One, as in adding file locations to a new tab? A new tab? What the fudge is a tab? New tab. You can kind of do that. So I'm going to show you something that I have done, because I have a bunch of samples from what used to be called Looploft. Looploft got sold to Native Instruments, I think. I think it was Native Instruments that Looploft got sold to. So Looploft no longer exists, sadly. However, the guy that created Looploft has started a new company called Yurt Rock, I think it's called. Something like that. Yurt Rock, which basically has a lot of the same samples as you got from Looploft, but a whole bunch of other better ones as well. So Yurt Rock is definitely something worth checking out if you want samples for drums, samples for saxophones, samples for Fender Rhodes electric piano, all sorts of stuff like that. Well, I've got a whole bunch of drum loops and single one-shot samples from Looploft before it got sold. I think I got those way back in 2017, and I have them on an external hard drive. And it's very, very easy to access those. And you can basically make a tab in the browser that's just for that particular folder. Okay, so I will show you what that looks like. So give me one little second to show you what that looks like. Let me close that. And I'm going to go over to the screen here, and I may need to move my, no, I'm not going to need to move myself. I don't think. No, I'm not going to need to move myself from the top there. What I will do is I'm going to close the level meter. I'm going to expand this out a little bit. Yeah, that looks all right. So you will see here that I have these tabs here. I've got a Studio One tab. This one comes by default. But then I've also got Dropbox, and then I've got Looploft Platinum Bundle. And the way I did that was I opened this volume here, and I opened this folder. I right-clicked this folder. And when you do that, you'll see an option down here that says New Tab from here. When you click on this, it creates a new tab. And what that means, if I can get this to open. Hang on one second. There we go. So when I click on this tab at the top here, it takes me directly to that folder. Okay, so I can go back over to Files here. I can close this this little folder here for the volumes, which is basically your drives. So your C drive, your D drive, E drive, F drive, however many drives, however many letters you've got. And I can just click directly on this here. And now I have access to all of these loops here. And as you can see, I've got quite a lot of them. I've got Blues Drums Volume 1, I've got brushes, and then I've got all of these, which are still zipped. I've not unzipped these, actually. But it's dead easy for me to just unzip those, and then they just become ordinary folders like this. So, but you can't actually unzip the folders in the browser here. You have to do this in Windows Explorer or in Finder, depending upon what platform you're on. If you're on PC, it's going to be Windows Explorer. If you're on Mac, it's going to be Finder. And then you just unzip or uncompress the folder, and then all of these just become folders. So these are not unzipped yet, but these ones are, because these are really the ones I have used the most. But there's a whole bunch, as you can see here. There's some world music ones, some odd meter ones, there's some jazz, there's some indie rock, there's hip hop, there's funk. There's flipped drums, which is interesting. Everything but sticks, which is basically playing drums. There's loops with mallets and all sorts of other things apart from sticks. Those are great. And then you've got dry drums, which is great if you want really, really kind of 1970s, no reverb, no processing, very, very dry drums. You've got those there. And then there's these dirty ones, which are basically, they are distorted in all sorts of weird and wonderful ways. And then you've got cinematic ones, and then you've got all these brushes ones as well. And then there's with the bundle, there was a Windows folder and there was a Mac OS folder, because the loop formats were slightly different for Mac OS back in the day. I don't think that's the case anymore. But certainly back in the old Looploft days, there was a separate folder. So there's a whole bunch of folders in there. So for each one of these folders, there's a Mac OS folder as well that has different format files for Mac OS, which I don't think there is this difference anymore. So it doesn't really matter. But yes, so essentially what I'm saying here, Dave, is if you locate that folder, wherever it might be, so you know, any of these, for example, if I was to right click this one, backup song folder 2025, if I was to right click this, or this one here, Foley Challenge samples, if I was to right click this, you'll see new tab from here. If I click on that, it will create a new tab next to the Loop Loft tab here, and then you can just click directly on that tab. All right, so you don't need to. In fact, I would recommend not. If you've got a bunch of third-party loops, don't put them in a folder called Soundsets unless they are PreSonus Soundsets. If they are PreSonus Soundsets, so you got them from Studio One Pro Plus, then yes, you put those in the Soundsets folder. However, if they are third-party and nothing to do with PreSonus, do not put them in a folder marked Soundsets, because Studio One will get confused by what they are, because Soundsets is a very specific file format specific to PreSonus. So don't do that, is what I would say. If you've got loops, just make a folder called loops. Put them in that folder. If you've got samples, or they're one-shot samples, just call it one-shot samples. Put them all in that folder. Then right-click that folder and do new tab from here, and then you'll have direct access to that folder instantly from the tabs at the top here. Okay? And then you can just drag and drop things into the song. Very, very easy to do. So that would be my recommendation. Otherwise, what you can end up doing is you can end up with everything higgledy-piggledy all over the place, not stored efficiently, and you can end up with some samples that load in really efficiently, really quickly, because they're on a very fast drive, and then you've got others that are on a much slower drive that's maybe on a USB hub, which is speed limited, and then you encounter all sorts of latency issues. Then you start seeing things like the disk performance speeding up in the performance meter, and you end up with all kinds of pops, clicks, crackles. You may even end up with Studio One crashing, and you don't want that either. All right, so I hope that has helped. It's a good question, though. I like it. Good question. Yeah, rock. Yes, that's exactly what he called it. I have to admit, when he called it that, I did laugh. I did think it was very funny as well. The ship of the desert sailed. No, I'm not sure what that refers to. So easy, and yes, I have a separate samples folder as well, so thanks again. There you go. Perfect. Mixmaster. Okay, yeah, don't put a space between the @ and Jonny Lipsham Studios. It doesn't work if you do that. So just type the @ and then start typing Jonny Lipsham Studios. It will autofill for you. Any way to save keyword search when looking for samples, effects, etc. There isn't necessarily a specific way to save keyword searches, like a search history, exactly. But for the most part, PreSonus content will already be tagged with things like kick or hi-hat or, you know, stuff like that, or snare or guitar, or, you know, those kind of tags will already be done. And so what that means is those files that have already had that meta tagging done, when you search for them, they will be there. Looking for a plugin, type name. Yeah, you can search directly in Studio One. Let me show you a neat way to do this. I'm gonna create a new song to do this. And we're going to go back to the screen over here. And so what we'll do is we'll just create a blank audio channel. There we go. We'll change that disgusting color to something a bit brighter. So let's say you want to add a compressor to this. you can click on this plus sign here and you get this nice little search box here. And you see all of these folders. These are all my folders for all my plugins. And you can see here, there's a list of recent ones. So these are the recent ones that I have most recently used. And then there's a list of favorite ones that I've already starred. And so this little list of favorite ones that I've already starred means I've got dead easy access to any of these. Okay. Or I can just open up the particular, so let's say I want to grab this one, but I want to do it without opening that folder. So let's see if I type in the word ferric, will it open up? Yes, it does. So I just started to type ferric and it immediately showed that as an option. And it's the only plugin that has those letters in it. So I can now easily drag and drop that into Studio One. So if I do, let's say MJ for MJUC, now that comes up and I can just select that. And there we go. We've got the MJUC popped in. Easy enough. And then I can just remove that. So let's say I want to try Pro Q. Let's do Pro, and there you see, there's all my options just by typing in Pro. And then if I typed in a dash after that, that would just like, there you go. Now all that's open here, or all these options that are available to me, are all the ones that come from the FabFilter bundle. So the Pro R, the Pro DS, the Pro Q, the Pro compressor, the Pro C2, the Pro G, all of those are there. And I can just add in one of those, and there we go. So it's easy enough to do. And like I said, if I remove that, if I click on this again, and if I open recent, you'll see now the most recently used plugins are now there available just to click on. So if you find that there's a regular plugin that you use all the time, or a regular set of plugins that you use all the time, you can click that plugin and then the plus icon, and then you can just select it from this little list of most recently used plugins. So you can do this if you don't want to do drag and drop. Personally, I prefer drag and drop because drag and drop is just the easiest thing ever. This is the kind of thing, clicking on a plus icon like this, this is something that is very Pro Tools or Cubase, particularly Pro Tools. And so it means you're searching for plugins, you're inserting plugins on a list basis. If you've got lots of folders and you've got lots of plugins, particularly if you are somebody like my good friend Warren Hewitt, who has thousands of plugins, when he's trying to find a particular plugin in Pro Tools, this is what he does. And he has to go through list after list after list and open individual folders. And he has like 4 or 5 nested menus that have popped up until he finds the plugin he wants. That to me is really clunky. Now, the way I think Presonus has done this really, really well in Studio One is the fact that you can use this search box and you can just type, you can begin to type what the plugin is, and then you will see that plugin and then you just click on it. It's that simple. So it means you're not having to open any of these folders, even though those folders are there, you're not having to open them at all. So it makes it very, very easy to insert plugins quickly. Personally, for me, I think this list approach is not the fastest way. The fastest way is to drag and drop. But that's just me. It's drag and drop was one of the things that most attracted me to Studio One in the first place. Back in 2013, when I first started using it. This for me was like the biggest selling point, was drag and drop, because there wasn't a DAW out there that was doing drag and drop at all. And so this really struck me as being, hey, this is so much faster than all the other workflows in any other DAW that there is. And I have used pretty much every DAW. I've used Pro Tools quite a lot. I use Cubase extensively because Cubase was my main DAW for over 30 years. So I was extremely familiar with Cubase. I knew it inside out, backwards, forwards, sideways. I could do things in Cubase with my eyes shut. That's how good I got in Cubase. I could navigate around extremely quickly. And then I discovered Studio One, and when I started using it, I was just like, this is even faster. It's insane. I was brand new to it. I didn't really know where everything was, but even then, Studio One has such an intuitive nature. It meant that I was finding things for Studio One where I expected them to be. It wasn't a surprise to me. I wasn't having to go digging to try and find a particular feature or a particular functionality. It was where I thought it would be. You know, it's kind of like they designed it so logically and so sensibly that it was easy to get to. Can you show alternative using browser on the right? Yeah, so I have the browser over here on the right, and if I want to drag something in, I have these I tend to have these folders open, but you don't have to. So I tend to have all my plugin folders open. That's just a habit, but really you don't have to. I would say if you have plugins that you use the most, just open your favorites tab and just drag and drop. Done. It's as simple as that. Okay? It really is as simple as that. Just drag and drop. And then if you've got multiple channels, so if I was to add, another 8 versions of me here, and let's say I wanted this compressor on, you know, I've put the compressor on channel 1, but let's say I want to put the compressor across all the rest of the channels. I just select the next one, hold shift, select that one, and then I can just drag it across. And now you see it populates across all the rest of the channels. I'm not having to go 7 times. See how quick that was? It's incredibly fast. And then I can just remove them all because they're all still selected. And then I can hold shift. I can select all of these channels. And actually, I don't want to do that. I want to select that one, right click, and I can remove selected tracks. There we go. And now I could have done Shift T and it would have done exactly the same thing. So there you go. Drag and drop is so much faster, so much better. So effect won't find an instrument. No. Effects are for effects. Instruments are in the Instruments tab. Okay, so if I want cinematic lights in, I just drag it in like that. Select what I want. And we're done. And immediately... I'm away, doing whatever I want. So there you go. That's instruments and effects. Easy to drag and drop. Samplers are not effects. Samplers are instruments. So you'll see in here that there is actually a sample player, and it's called Presence. And this plays a whole bunch of samples. So if I drag that in here, you'll find that there's folders for pretty much everything, including vocals. I've got a couple of vocals packages here. And I've got all of these here for different vocal effects. And I've got guitars, I've got bass, I've got brass, I've got the original, very, very first Deep Flight 1 from many years ago. And we got pianos, percussion. We got, I also have the Persona Symphonic Orchestra and the contemporary strings. I've got all sorts of stuff in here. So this is a sample player, but if you want a sampler, that's a slightly different thing. So let's select both of those. And we will remove selected tracks and instruments. So if I drag in sample 1, now what this does is this actually records a sample. So you can drag in samples to this one, to be fair. And then you can record it and you can play it on your keyboard, or you can select any of these. I've got all sorts of samples that I've created over the years, and then you can manipulate the waves here. You can change the mapping, you can change the envelopes, you can record a new sample, and of course you can do some direct input as well if you want to. There's all sorts of things you can do. So this is still an instrument, even though it's a sampler, okay? And it's called Sample 1. So there we go. Liking decent sampler, free from Venus Theory. Never heard of it personally, but I will maybe go check that out, especially if it's free. And if it's good, then that's also a good thing. Let's see. Yeah, Kyle says, or mark each plugin as a favorite. Yes, you can mark each plugin as a favorite. You can right-click it and choose to add to favorites. So if you know there's a particular plugin, regardless of vendor, whether it's a Personas one or if it's another third-party plugin of your choice, then you can absolutely just mark those. You can add those to your favorites list, and then it's just dead easy to drag and drop them in. So there we go. I'm glad that has helped you, Mixmaster. And I'm glad you're here as well, by the way. So, Chris Mrakna also has another quiz, John. Best way to sync Studio One files between two computers. Okay, first thing to say here, you cannot actually sync, technically. It's not possible. However, what you can do, especially if you are a subscriber to Studio One Pro Plus, is you can create a workspace that is just for you. And then what you can do is you can, on both computers, you can basically add yourself to that workspace. And then when you open Studio One, you can be working on the same song on the two computers just by simply just downloading the content from that particular workspace. You've then got it on both computers. It does not sync in real time, but you can send and receive like you can with any other workspace. So if you have a song that is synced to your workspace, then you can send and receive new files to that workspace, and then you can, like, let's say on computer A, you record something extra for the song that is synced, and then you send those files to the workspace. Then on computer B, you have the song, but you just don't have those files that you recorded on computer A. That's fine. You open that song and you receive the files. You'll get a notification saying, hey, these files are available. And then you just click on receive, and those files will be downloaded directly to that song, to the exact spot in the song where they should be. They don't just go to bar 0. They go wherever they are required, wherever they were recorded in the song on computer A. So you can do that for sure. But if you're not a member of Studio One Pro Plus, not a subscriber, then syncing is not really possible. You can use Dropbox to send stems between two computers. You can do that. You can zip up a song and you can send it up to Dropbox, and then you can, on your other computer, unzip that and open that up on your other song, on your other computer. But there is no way to directly sync those two songs using a third party like Dropbox. But you can with Studio One Pro Plus. That's absolutely a thing and absolutely possible. There you go. Chris says, he says, I never thought of that. What a great suggestion. I'll give it a go. There you go. So yeah, setting up your own little workspace in Studio One Pro Plus so that you can work by yourself on more than one computer should work well for you. I have a friend of mine actually who's doing this in the real world because he has his main studio, which is his commercial studio, and he has his home studio as well. And so he does that. He has a workspace that he's created and he's the only person in it. And he basically just syncs up songs between his home studio and the commercial studio and vice versa. So that if necessary, he can continue to work on the song at home, and then he can then send those files. And then when he gets to the commercial studio on Monday morning, he can receive those files directly into that song, and it works. It works instantly. The Sound Recording Studio says, I think Dropbox can do something like that. It can do something similar to that, but it's not the same as a Studio One Pro Plus workspace. Not even close. The synchronization between sending and receiving files is not something that a third party like Dropbox can do, but it is something that workspaces for Studio One Pro Plus can do. It's one of the big features of the subscription. I know that there are some people out there that they're just like, nope, I will never subscribe to a DAW. And I hear that, and I get you. I was that person too. And I'm not just saying that. That is true. I really was that person until we came out with the subscription in July 2020. And originally it was called Persona Sphere. And, you know, the cool thing about Persona Sphere is it's not just subscription to Studio One. If you only think that all it is subscribing to Studio One, so you're paying monthly for a DAW instead of owning the license to the product, if you think that's all it is, that is extremely narrow thinking, and you are missing out on an absolute megaton of content and features that are available to you that are not available in perpetual licensing. It's not just subscribing to pay monthly for Studio One. You get the workspaces, which we've just talked about. You get a whole bunch of sound sets and loop libraries that you won't find anywhere else. You get the Retro Mix Legends mix effects plugins, which, again, you're not really going to find anywhere else. You get the entire Fat Channel Collection Volume 1 for the Fat Channel, which gives you all sorts of analog modeled EQs and compressors, which you're not going to find anywhere else. So there's an awful lot of benefits to Studio One Pro Plus membership that you're not going to get if you just purchase a perpetual license for Studio One. So, plus you also get whatever new versions of Studio One come out. Providing your subscription is paid up and is active and is not expired, you will get whatever new version of Studio One comes out in the future. So that's another big benefit. Whereas if you just have a perpetual license, then you're going to have to pay to upgrade. So, yeah. But at the end of the day, it's kind of up to you. And I mean, think about this. Think about your usage. Because the Studio One Pro Plus membership, the reason why the plus is there, because it's not just Studio One. It's also Notion, the notation software. And it's also Notion Mobile. And it's also the entire Expansion Sounds library for both of those, which means you can have the notation application on, if you have Notion Mobile, you can have it on your Mac, your PC, your smartphone, your iPad. You can have it on all of those devices, and you can transmit your score between devices. So if you started something on a long haul flight on your iPad, like I have done, and you want to finish it in your studio, which is exactly what I wanted to do, because I was signed into both my iPad and my PC with my credentials for Studio One Pro Plus, I could do export score, transmit, boom. Instantly, the score appeared in Notion Mobile on my PC, and I could carry on working on it. So if you are a composer like I am, or an arranger like I also am, and you do notation, then Studio One Pro Plus is a great thing, because it gives you Studio One, and it gives you Notion, and it gives you everything else, and it gives you the workspaces and all of that. But if really you just are a singer-songwriter, guitar player, vocalist, and you don't need any of the stuff I've just mentioned, and you just only need Studio One, get a perpetual license. Just get a perpetual license. Don't bother with any of the other stuff, unless you're collaborating with other people, in which case the workspace is a very, very good thing. And then get yourself the subscription so that you've got the access to the workspaces. However, if you are wanting to collaborate with people, and you want to collaborate with people who are subscribers, and you're not, but you don't want to be a subscriber, but you do want to work with them, you can still work with them in workspaces. You just can't create your own. All right, now that I've got off that little soapbox, I hope that that's given everybody here just kind of like a little bit of food for thought about, perpetual versus subscription, and which is going to be most useful for you. D Sound Recording Studio says, I think Dropbox... Oh, I've read that already. Dave says, I think syncing may be a hardware issue, like word clock. Am I out of bounds here? No, you're just not correct. It has nothing to do with word clock. If you are syncing files, that's nothing to do with word clock. Word clock is to do with syncing devices. So that's one application of the word syncing. You can use the word syncing in a whole bunch of different contexts. Like, I can synchronize watches between me and my wife. If we want to make sure that we are going to meet at exactly a particular time, for example, then I just make sure that our clocks, the second and minute hands on our clocks, are exactly the same. That's another form of synchronizing. And of course, there's synchronized swimming, which is another application of the word synchronizing. I think you know what I mean. So in this particular case, you can synchronize, you can sync files using workspaces. And basically what that means, you send to the workspace, you receive from the workspace. That's how that works. So the song is synced to the workspace, as in it is paired between your local computer and the workspace. Workspace up here, computers down here. Computer A sends, computer B receives. That's syncing. It's the same thing. So word clock has nothing to do with that particular aspect of syncing. That's where you are synchronizing, say, an external hardware synthesizer, like a Eurorack module or something like that, and you're synchronizing that to the clock of your computer so that the synthesizer and Studio One are in time together, and are sharing tempo data together. That's a different kind of syncing. Chandler Briggs says it used to be $130 a year for the new version, so it was a small amount more to retain the whole package. Yeah, it is a little bit more money for the subscription compared to the perpetual license. That's true, but you are also getting a lot more content and a lot more features, and of course you're getting the workspaces and all of that. Plus, you're getting the next version of Studio One and future updates for Notion as well. All included, rather than paying separately for each one of those products. So Yeah, it is a little bit more than $130. But that's because you're paying for all the extra stuff. Kyle says, if there is a chat later, basically an after show party, let me know on Facebook. I have to run. Okay, yeah, we will do that if there is one. Mixmaster says, if you start with Pro Plus and move to Perpetual, will it break things that used Fat Channel, etc.? Yes, it will. Anything that is exclusive to the subscription to Studio One Pro Plus, and you basically end your subscription, those things are basically hidden. We don't delete things from your account, but they are deactivated and they are not available to you. So I'm going to give you a different example of a membership, which I hope will help understand how this all works. Let's say there is a fantastic, incredible state-of-the-art gymnasium in your town. And you decide, hey, this would be a really good idea for me to get nice and fit and trim and healthy. And the best place for me to do that is at this gymnasium. It's got everything I need. It's got swimming pool, it's got diving boards, it's got a jacuzzi, it's got saunas, it's got cold plunge tubs, it's got treadmills, it's got all the stuff that you need, right? And they offer a membership of, let's say, $20 a month, which is probably cheap, right? But let's just say, in this example, it's $20 a month for you to have access to the entire building and all of the facilities. And let's say you sign up for a year. So you pay their annual membership fee. And you go along and you use all this stuff for the whole year. And then at the end of the year, you decide, you know what, I'm not going to renew. And so that membership comes to an end because you've not renewed it. And then let's say a couple of months later, you decide you're going to go back. Well, your membership no longer exists. So what that means is you now have to pay the individual prices for using the individual things that they have, the individual facilities that they have in their gymnasium, or you just start a new subscription, a new membership. It's exactly the same with software. I am bewildered how people are confused by this, to be honest. Anything you gain from a membership of anything, including a book club, when that membership ends or that subscription ends, you no longer have access to those things. Which means if you have used the Fat Channel and you have used the modules that are part of the subscription, and then you are no longer a subscriber, those will not be available to you anymore. Which means if you open up a song that has used those will come up as missing devices. Because you don't have access to them anymore because you're not a member anymore. So yes, it will break stuff that uses anything that's exclusive to the membership because those things are not available to you anymore. So Chandler says, if you bounce tracks using instruments lost with perpetual license, that will capture the settings without needing the instrument. Yes, it will. You're absolutely right. And in fact, that's what I recommend if you decide that you're going to end your subscription. Bounce everything that uses subscription stuff. That way, those things are to use old tape machine parlance, they are printed to the track. They are printed to the track. And so those instrument sounds, they are now printed to the track. So they cannot be they cannot be removed. They are printed to audio. They're not MIDI anymore. The instruments are not in use. Dave says, if I no longer subscribe to Pro Plus, do I lose my Soundset downloads? Yes. Anything that is part of this subscription, if you end your subscription, You no longer have access to them. That means they are gone. That's what a membership is. Like I said with the example of the gym membership. If that gym membership ends, you don't get to go and use all the stuff unless you pay individually for each facility within the gym. That's how memberships work. So bear those things in mind. Just Bob says, if tracks aren't rendered, the tracks will be broke. If bounced and rendered, it's baked into the track. That is correct. I know you're not complaining, Dave, but I know you're not complaining and you're just asking, but this is important that folks understand how memberships and subscriptions work. And this is not just to Personas, not just to Studio One. This is memberships for anything. This includes membership at the AA or the RAC, or, some kind of breakdown association who will come to you and fix your car at the roadside, and then you don't pay anything because it's part of your subscription. It's part of your membership. If you end that membership, you don't get that breakdown assistance anymore. Well, you do. You can still call them up and they will still come, but they will charge you at the roadside. So it's about convenience and what you want. So if you end a membership of the RAC or the Breakdown Assistance Organization, then you don't get the benefits of that membership anymore. And Rich says here, if you hire a car and no longer pay the lease, you will be walking to work. That is absolutely correct as well. Mixmaster says, when I was told I had to downgrade to Artist 6, I lost a lot. Well, I don't know who told you had to downgrade. And obviously you've not given me any context to that, so I don't know what that's all about. But yes, if you go from Studio One 7 Pro to Studio One Artist, yeah, you will lose what was available to you in Studio One 7, because Studio One 6 predates Studio One 7. So features that are in Studio One 7 are not going to be in Studio One 6. And yes, because it's the artist version, it will not be activated with the subscription, and therefore any membership stuff is not available to you. So yeah, Dave makes a good point here. He says, as a member of the Musicians Union, we pay dues. Why? Because they support us. Yes, exactly. Exactly. Anyway, we are overtime, folks. I don't mind overtiming sometimes, but tonight I do, because I've got stuff to do. Okay, Mixmaster, I'm glad you got that situation sorted out. I'm pretty sure that tech support got with you and got that all sorted out for you. So that's good news. All right, so with all of that discussion done, and I think it's important that we remember that subscriptions work universally, whether you're subscribing to National Geographic, breakdown assistance, a gym, a coffee club, anything you subscribe to. If you end that subscription, you don't get the benefits of the subscription anymore. So there you go. All right, we're out of time. I'll finish with this. I'll finish with what Rich says here. He says, we customers expect a lot for free. And I think it's a shame that we're even asking these questions. Pay the man in whatever way you choose, but do not complain when things you hired are gone. Yeah, I would agree with that. I would absolutely agree with that. And he says, subscriptions are awesome. If you find yourself not using a thing, you haven't committed. Yeah, I kind of agree with that too. All right, so Mixmaster says, I think Studio One Pro Plus is great value and I'm a hobbyist. Well, there you go. Yep. I think it's great value whether you're a hobbyist or whether you are a professional. Definitely. All right, so as I said, we're out of time. That's the end of tonight's show. I will see you on Wednesday for Songwriting Simplified, where we will continue talking about the Halloween songwriting challenge, and we'll continue talking about the scales and stuff that are in use for that. So if you guys have got any questions about the Halloween songwriting challenge, then please do get those into the chat on Wednesday, back here at 6 p.m. Central Time. All right, folks, I'm out of here. Take care, everybody. See you then. Have a great start to your week. Good night.